Before you watch another story about karma, backhand index pointing right, click like, hit subscribe, and share this with someone who still thinks success means stepping on people. Because this one, you're not going to forget it. She used to roll her eyes when he walked into the room. Didn't even bother learning his full name, just called him D. Short for Deshaun. It's easier, she said with a chuckle. Some of those names are just too urban. She never said anything technically racist. No slurs, no yelling, just polite tones, sharp smiles, and little cuts that bled slow. Her name was Meredith Shaw. She wore $800 heels and a reputation built on fear. VP of talent at one of Manhattan's most cutthroat investment firms. She liked being the gatekeeper, and she loved slamming the door shut on people she didn't think belonged, especially young, black interns like Deshaun Clark. He was sharp, quiet, graduated top of his class at Howard, wore his father's watch to every meeting, took notes when no one else did. But Meredith didn't see any of that. All she saw was skin tone and a last name she didn't respect. So she gave him filing work, left him off email chains, laughed when he pitched ideas. Once, she said in front of the whole team, "Deshaun, you're so passionate, but maybe try to tone it down. We're not at a spoken word open mic." And when she accidentally gave his project to another intern who went to Princeton, she smiled and said, "You'll get your chance someday." She thought she'd never see him again. She was wrong. Years later, the company was under federal investigation. A culture audit, ethics violations, HR complaints stacking like bricks. An outside firm was brought in. Big, powerful, anonymous. Meredith was told someone would be reviewing her entire department, someone with the authority to write a report that could destroy her career. She waited in the conference room, nervous, trying to act calm. Then the door opened, and in walked Deshaun Clark. Older now, sharper suit, still calm. But his eyes, they didn't blink. This wasn't revenge. This was karma. Corporate, clean, and quiet. Manhattan, 7:26 a.m. Meredith Shaw arrived exactly 4 minutes early. She always did, not because she was afraid of being late, but because being early made others look late. Her black heels tapped like authority across the marble floor of Kingsbridge Capital, one of New York's top mid-sized investment firms, exclusive, ruthless, and white as the snow outside. Meredith was vice president of talent, a polite way of saying gatekeeper to the kingdom. Her job wasn't just hiring. It was deciding who deserved to be here. And in her mind, deserve came with a certain look, woman blonde, thin, polished, feared. She looked the part. Slim, tailored suits in cold neutrals, waves of blonde hair curled like strategy, a jawline that looked like it had been sharpened with ambition. Her office was floor-to-ceiling glass. Empty white orchids on her desk, one motivational quote in metallic font behind her chair. Excellence isn't given. It's curated. That was her philosophy. She didn't believe in luck. She believed in design. And people like Deshaun Clark, they didn't fit the design. Hot beverage, the morning ritual, judgment, and lattes. She sipped her oat milk latte while scrolling LinkedIn on her second monitor, rolling her eyes at self-made success stories. Please, nobody just builds a startup from scratch. Daddy's money counts, sweetheart. She checked the new intern list. 2 Ivy Leaguers, 1 Stanford, and 1 Howard. She clicked on the name, Deshaun Clark, double major, honors, internship at a nonprofit VC fund. Umph, her lips pressed together, in that way she always did when trying not to laugh. Or snort. Let's see how long he lasts. Briefcase, the office ecosystem. Meredith didn't scream. She didn't insult people to their faces. She was subtler than that. Dangerously subtle. She made offhand comments like, "You speak so well. I love how articulate you are." She'd touch a black woman's hair and say, "It's so fun. I could never pull that off." She'd refer to DI meetings as those feel-good sessions. She wasn't overtly racist. She was performatively inclusive, the kind that looked great on camera, but slashed you to death by 1,000 cuts when no one was watching. Meredith's inner world. Meredith didn't see herself as a bad person. She donated to girls' education charities, used words like unconscious bias when HR walked by, hired a black assistant once, but only because the board recommended it. Inside, Meredith believed she was doing enough. She wasn't burning crosses. She wasn't screaming slurs. So, how could she be racist? But what she didn't see was how she erased people. Quietly, deliberately, effortlessly. Receipt the fit test. Every time a candidate came in, she ran them through her internal checklist. Strong handshake, Ivy League, clean-cut image, neutral accent, and then the final category, unspoken but always present. Do they make the brand look good? When Deshawn walked in on day one, wearing a slightly oversized navy suit and a backpack instead of a briefcase, she knew her answer. Woman detective first impressions. Deshawn, right? Yes, ma'am. Deshawn Clark. Can I call you D? It's easier. Rolls off the tongue. She didn't wait for permission, just smiled and turned to her laptop. She gave him tasks like a data entry, schedule coordination, fixing PowerPoint slides for other people's presentations. She invited the other interns to sit in on meetings. Not him. Once, he offered an idea during a brainstorm. Meredith blinked, tilted her head. That's creative. Maybe not how we do things here, but interesting. She looked at the others. Let's stick to strategy we can sell, guys. Okay. Brain behind closed doors. In private meetings, she'd say, he's bright, but a little rough around the edges. We just need someone with more polish. Don't get me wrong, I love diversity, but culture fit matters too. Everyone nodded. No one challenged her. Linked paperclips, one final cut. At the end of the summer internship, she was tasked with nominating 3 interns for full-time roles. Deshawn's file? Flawless. High productivity. Strong evaluations from other departments. She moved it into the no pile. We already have 1 DI hire starting this quarter, she told HR. Let's not overcorrect. She clicked reject. Didn't look back. Waxing crescent moon, her world was untouchable. At happy hour, she joked about the PowerPoint prince, Deshawn's nickname in her group chat. She celebrated another polished hire from Dartmouth. She leaned back in her chair, satisfied. Some people just don't make it. She never wondered where Deshawn went. Never asked, never thought twice. Because to her, he was just an intern. And she was Meredith Shaw, too powerful to fall. Or so she thought. From Howard to Kingsbridge, Deshawn Clark had always known he'd have to work twice as hard. His father told him that at age 12. You don't get to be average, son. When you're black, brilliance isn't a bonus, it's your baseline. So, Deshawn got to work. Honor roll. Debate team captain. Graduated magna cum laude from Howard. Fluent in Excel, Python, and how to swallow disrespect without changing your face. Metro first day. First glance. He arrived at Kingsbridge Capital 10 minutes early. Nervous, yes, but proud. This was it. The place that could change everything. As he stepped into the lobby, he felt it, the air that buzzed with wealth, deals, and polish. He saw her coming before she saw him. Meredith Shaw, VP, high heels, cold eyes. When she walked up and said, Deshawn, right? I'll just call you D. It's easier. He smiled politely, but inside, something quiet curled into a fist. Ice Cube Week 1. Welcome to the bottom. His fellow interns, 2 from Yale, 1 from Princeton, were immediately looped into strategy meetings. Deshawn? Data entry, calendar updates, printing, administrative tasks disguised as exposure. He did it all, no complaints. But he noticed, when he spoke in meetings, Meredith would nod and then repeat his point as if it were hers. When he emailed a suggestion, she'd forget to CC the team. When others made small mistakes, it was a learning curve. When he did, it was concerning. Brain Deshawn's rules of survival. He didn't fight, didn't argue, didn't flinch, because he knew how power protects itself. So he did something Meredith never saw coming. He watched, he remembered, and he learned, ***. He kept a private file. Every slight, every ignored email, every project stolen. Not out of bitterness, but for the day he'd need it. Laptop computer, the quiet wins. Week 3, he caught a bug in the financial model no one else saw. Week 5, he corrected a pitch deck 10 minutes before it went to the CEO, saving the team embarrassment. Week 7, he stayed late to help an overworked analyst meet a deadline. That analyst never forgot. Still, Meredith never praised him. Just nodded. Or worse, joked. "You're a hidden gem, D. Let's just keep you hidden, shall we?" Everyone laughed. He didn't. The final blow. Near the end of the internship, the team was asked to nominate candidates for return offers, full-time jobs after graduation. His manager pulled him aside. "Deshaun, your work's been outstanding. I don't know what Meredith's thinking, but I'm rooting for you." He smiled. "Thank you." He left the room, hopeful. 3 days later, he received the email. "Thank you for your interest in Kingsbridge Capital." Unfortunately, he didn't even read the rest. He just closed his laptop, sat still for 5 minutes, and said quietly, "Got it." Package he left with nothing but his name. No offer. No references. No acknowledgement. But he left with something Meredith didn't realize she gave him. Clarity. She thought he didn't matter. She thought she erased him. She was wrong. She had just written chapter 1 of a story he would one day finish. Repeat button, fast forward. 3 years later. Deshaun had taken a job at a small firm. Built his way up. Quiet. Relentless. Brilliant. He got poached by a progressive hedge fund that actually walked the walk. Doubled their returns. Then launched a culture diagnostics division for firms under fire. He'd become an expert in toxic corporate structures, specialized in ethics audits, microaggression mapping, and executive accountability. One day, his assistant walked in with a file. Client, Kingsbridge Capital. Internal ethics investigation. High profile. They're requesting an anonymous lead consultant. Deshaun looked at the folder. Didn't blink. Schedule it. Cold-faced the return. The office hadn't changed. The art on the wall. The elevator music. Even the front desk girl still said, "Excuse me, are you delivering something?" He smiled. "I am. Karma." He rode the elevator to the executive floor, waited outside conference room B, and when the door opened, Meredith was already sitting inside. She didn't recognize him at first, too busy scanning her phone, adjusting her blazer, practicing her charm. Then he stepped into the light. She looked up, and her face dropped, just for a second. Then came the forced smile. "Deshaun." He nodded once. "Ms. Shaw," and sat down not beside her, across from her, with the file. He opened it slowly, and said the line she would never forget. "So, let's talk about culture fit. Microaggression isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a smile. You know what I mean. A raised eyebrow during introductions, and oops, forgot to CC you again." For Deshaun Clark, it started before day 1. Telephone receiver, the pre-internship call. "Hi, Deshaun. Meredith here. Just wanted to get a feel for your summer expectations. You're from Howard, right? That's great. I love that school's energy." He smiled. "Thank you. We're really trying to diversify our intern pool this year, so your presence will be such a gift." Gift? He felt the first quiet shift in tone. Beverage box orientation morning. The interns were offered coffee and fruit. Meredith laughed when Deshaun reached for pineapple. "Careful, D. Gotta keep that blood sugar in check. You know how our people get." She winked. He froze for half a beat. The others laughed awkwardly. He said nothing, but he remembered. "Laptop computer, can you take notes?" Every Monday, Meredith hosted team brainstorms with all the interns. She never asked the Ivy League boys to take notes. Only Deshaun. "You're so detail-oriented. Love that about you." Brain the project swap. In week 4, he submitted a 12-slide pitch deck about an emerging fintech company in Detroit. Meredith skimmed it, nodded vaguely, said too niche. Pass. 3 days later, she presented the exact same company to the investment committee. using his slides with slight edits under another intern's name. Deshawn saw it happen in real time. "Wait," he whispered to the girl next to him. "That's my research." She shrugged. "You know how she is." Woman shrugging subtle isolation. She referred to him as the diversity one in a team meeting. Once asked if his dreadlocks were real or for style, said, "Your people must be proud," when he mentioned his mom was a nurse. No one ever said anything, because it wasn't bad enough. But to Deshawn, it built like bricks on his back. Bar chart, the whiteboard incident. In week 6, she asked for fresh, out-of-the-box solutions to a struggling portfolio company. Deshawn wrote his idea on the whiteboard. Community-leveraged microfunding. Meredith stared at it. That sounds nonprofit. Why? We're not here to save the world, D. Let's stick to money. Someone chuckled. His throat tightened, but he smiled anyway. Got it, brain, but he wasn't the only one watching. One floor down, Jordan Patel, a second-year analyst, had been watching it all. She was young, South Asian, quietly brilliant, and she knew exactly what Deshawn was going through. She pulled him aside one day after lunch. "Don't let her rewrite you." He blinked. "What? She's not just ignoring you. She's erasing you while you're standing right there." That was the first time he realized he wasn't crazy. File folder the quiet file begins. That night, he opened a fresh Google Doc. Named it Meredith Notes. Every microaggression, every double standard, every time he was cut off, talked over, redirected, discredited, he didn't plan to use it. Not then, but he needed it to stay sane, to see the pattern, to remind himself this wasn't his fault. Brain karma begins with self-belief. Meredith may have had the power, but Deshawn had the memory, the patience, the clarity. He knew she underestimated him. That was her mistake, because you don't see a quiet man until he walks back into the room holding your future in his hands. And when that day came, he wouldn't raise his voice. He'd just raise his eyebrows. Monday morning, 1 week before internship ends, Deshawn arrived early. Pressed shirt, new tie, resume draft in his bag. Today was important, the beginning of final evaluations. He'd been working late every night. Finished the portfolio revival pitch on his own time. Added charts, case studies, predictive analysis. It was his shot to prove his worth, once and for all. Meredith had promised each intern a private check-in to review potential offers. He was scheduled second. Speaking head, the first warning. As he passed the break room, Jordan, the analyst from floor 6, caught his eye. She looked off. "Hey," she said quietly, "you prepped for your eval?" "Yeah," Deshawn nodded. "Working on the revival deck all weekend. Should be good." Jordan hesitated. "You might want to check something." Deshawn blinked. "What do you mean?" "Just ask Meredith who she's giving credit for the deck." He froze. "Wait, what?" "I overheard her. She was showing it to the director. Said it came from her top intern. But she didn't say your name." Silence. Then something cold settled behind his eyes. Ice Cube, the eval meeting that wasn't. 10:30 a.m. Conference room C. Deshawn entered, laptop ready. Smile polite. Eyes clear. Meredith didn't even look up when he walked in. "D, take a seat." She gestured to a chair in the corner, not across from her desk, subtle power move. He sat, quiet, still watching. "I just wanted to check in before you wrap up your time with us. You've really added something to the room." He nodded. "I hope the revival project showed that. I added market overlays and—" "Yes, about that," she cut in. "It was a great group effort." "Group? Don't get caught up in credit, D. That's not how we succeed here." She smiled thinly. "We all rise together, right?" Face without mouth, Deshawn stays still. His heart beat once hard, but he didn't blink, didn't stutter, didn't fight, just leaned back slightly and asked, "Will I be considered for the full-time rotation?" Meredith smiled, but her eyes were already dismissing him. "I think you'd thrive somewhere more mission-driven. Have you considered nonprofits? Or maybe fintech in Atlanta? I know firms there are looking for community-oriented talent." Every word was a knife dressed as advice. Laptop computer later that day, he opened his inbox. No offer letter. But the Princeton intern, the one who helped him build slides, got one. So did both Ivy League kids. He walked into the nearest supply closet, shut the door, took a breath, and said softly, "That's it." Card index dividers, he opened the file. Meredith, notes. He added the last entry. Revival pitch credited to another intern. Verbal discouragement from applying for full-time. Ethnic stereotyping in evaluation. Nonprofit would be a better fit, implicit bias. Then he renamed the document, proof for later, and emailed a backup to himself, and to his mentor, and to someone else, someone at his former internship, a culture-focused investment fund. No anger, no explosion, just preparation. Because the best revenge isn't revenge, it's readiness. Chart decreasing Meredith's final mistake. A week later, she bragged at the Friday happy hour. Some of them just aren't Kingsbridge material. You know what I mean? Jordan overheard, said nothing, but her expression hardened. And on Monday, she quietly sent Deshawn's resume to her contact at Valor Equity Group, a firm that specialized in ethical investing and leadership integrity. Deshawn got an interview, then an offer, then a mission. Compass, he had a new goal now, not to prove himself, but to change the system that let Meredith Shaw rise unchecked while stepping over people like him. He wasn't erased. He was being sharpened. 3 years later, Kingsbridge Capital. Meredith Shaw was still untouchable, still high heels and high performance, still in the same glass office with a bigger orchid and even fewer genuine smiles. Her job title had changed. Now Senior VP of People Strategy. A made-up title, maybe, but it gave her more reach, more control, more ways to shape culture into what she thought it should be. High-achieving, polished, market-facing, risk-averse, manageable, which meant white, upper-class, and brand-safe. She didn't say that, of course. She didn't have to. Puzzle piece little cracks start to show. In the spring, 2 junior analysts quit without warning. Exit interviews were vague. The culture isn't what I expected. I didn't feel like I had a voice. Micro stuff, but it adds up. Meredith skimmed the notes. Sensitive. Gen Z stuff, she muttered, but then legal got involved. Envelope with arrow, a message from corporate. Subject, cultural assessment and compliance audit. Dear leadership team, due to multiple complaints filed both internally and externally, Kingsbridge Capital has engaged an independent consulting firm to conduct a full audit of workplace culture, equity practices, and executive conduct. Please cooperate fully. Assessment begins Monday. You will be informed of your assigned evaluation lead shortly. Meredith blinked at the email. Frown. This has to be about someone else. Probably finance. Or tech. She leaned back, but a thread of discomfort tugged at her ribcage. Beverage box Tuesday. Elevator conversations. She heard whispers on the 9th floor. I heard they're bringing in a black-lead review team. The firm is brutal, like they dig up everything. Did you see that spreadsheet circulating? 15 names already flagged. Meredith smiled, politely, when people looked her way, but inside, her pulse was crawling up her neck. Why would anyone flag me? I'm inclusive. I post black squares. I went to a DI workshop last quarter. She didn't remember any of it being that bad. But memory doesn't care about intent. What she forgot, every D she called instead of Deshawn, every idea she dismissed then recycled, every eye roll, every suggestion to go into nonprofits, the fact that she never sponsored a single employee of color for a promotion in 5 years. She forgot all of that, but they didn't. Receipt Friday morning, the email she didn't expect. Subject, ethics review your assigned lead. Meredith, your department will be evaluated under the guidance of lead culture consultant Deshawn Clark. Please provide full access to historical hiring decisions, exit interviews, promotion records, and internal communications upon request. She stared at the name, froze, then whispered out loud to no one, "No, way." Ice Cube instant flashback. The pineapple joke. The whiteboard dismissal. The stolen pitch deck. The job offer he never got. All of it came flooding back, not because she felt guilty, but because he remembered. Chart decreasing panic, but polished. She shut her laptop slowly, smiled at the intern outside her door. Reschedule my afternoon. Then locked the door, and whispered, "This cannot be happening." Telephone receiver, she made one call to her mentor on the board. "This guy, Deshawn, I think he's biased. I mean, we had a history. Isn't that a conflict of interest?" The voice on the other end paused. "Well, maybe this is your moment to address that history." "What does that mean?" "It means we've had complaints, Meredith. This review wasn't random." Click. Woman standing alone. For real this time. She'd always been able to spin the story. "He's just not quite there yet. I'm giving honest feedback. Some people aren't ready." But now, the story was no longer hers to write, and the person holding the pen was someone she once tried to erase. Monday, 9:02 a.m. Conference room 6B, Kingsbridge, Capital. The room was glass-walled, silent, cold. A carafe of untouched coffee sat in the center of the table. A stack of printed documents, 2 nameplates, and 1 empty chair facing her. Meredith sat alone. She'd worn her best jacket, navy with gold buttons, put on neutral makeup, practiced her lines. "Just be professional. Stay calm. You're fine. You're not the villain here." Then the door opened. Necktie, he entered like he belonged. Deshawn Clark, 3 years older. Crisp gray suit. Black watch with a leather band. No expression on his face, only focus. He placed his laptop down slowly, opened a leather notebook, Saturday, and said, "Ms. Shaw, thank you for meeting with me." That voice, smooth, controlled, but carrying something underneath, like an ocean beneath ice. Meredith smiled, automatically. "Too tight. Of course. And please call me Meredith." Deshawn didn't. "Let's begin." File folder file 01, promotion track data. He opened a folder. Slide deck. Color-coded graphs. Over the past 5 years, your department promoted 12 associates to partner track roles. All 12 were white, 11 male. 0 black candidates were promoted, despite 2 with superior performance reviews. He looked up, not blinking. "How do you explain that?" Meredith cleared her throat. "Well, I don't make final promotion calls. That's a committee decision." "Were you on the committee?" "Yes." Silence. He wrote something down. Click to the next slide. File folder file 02, intern program history. A list of names appeared. "We found 37 interns cycled through under your supervision over 3 summers. Only 1 black intern was rated not recommended in your final evaluations." A pause. He stared at her. "Do you remember that intern?" She hesitated. Not by name, no." Deshawn nodded. "I do." And he let that hang in the air. Just long enough. File folder file 03. The notes. He placed a printout on the table, titled, "Microaggressions in Practice, Observed and Reported Incidents 2018 to 2021. Her name was highlighted 17 times. Deshawn flipped to 1 entry. July 12, 2020. He's very articulate for someone from Howard. She opened her mouth to defend herself, but August 3, 2020. Maybe a nonprofit would be more his speed. August 18th. Assigned solo note-taking responsibilities in mixed intern group. September 2nd. Credit for project reassigned to another intern without justification. He looked up. "This is your voice, Meredith. Your quotes. Your actions." She tried to smile. "I never meant to harm anyone." Deshawn raised an eyebrow. Intent and impact are 2 different reports. Ice cubed the shift. For the first time, she felt it, the imbalance. She wasn't steering the conversation. She wasn't leading the narrative. She was being evaluated. "I always tried to be supportive," she whispered. "Of who?" he asked genuinely. She didn't have an answer. Brain, he didn't gloat. Deshawn didn't smirk, didn't taunt, didn't lecture. He just told the truth. "What you did wasn't just unkind. It was structural, repetitive, measurable. And the fact that you don't remember any of it, that's the problem." Card index dividers, then he closed the folder. I'm not here for revenge. Then why are you here? He looked at her, finally, fully, and said, because I want to see what you'll do when no one's afraid of you anymore. Envelope with arrow that afternoon, Deshawn submitted his findings to the board. Neutral tone, factual language, no embellishment, but it was damning, patterned, documented, undeniable. He didn't ask for her termination. He didn't need to. He just held up the mirror and left the room. Candle the silence afterward. Meredith sat alone in her office. No more voice, no more control. And for the first time in her career, she didn't know what to say, because someone she'd once reduced to a joke had just held her entire reputation in his hands and walked away. The silence was worse than the fire. Meredith thought it would come fast, the outrage, the firing, the public drama. But it didn't. It came quietly, like cold water seeping under a locked door. Adult briefcase first came the emails that never got answered. She used to get 200 emails a day. Now, 40, maybe. Half of them were automated. The other half, careful, diplomatic, sterile. We'll circle back. We'll take it under advisement. Let's put that idea on pause for now. Translation: you don't lead here anymore. Bookmark tabs, then came the meetings she wasn't invited to. Strategy syncs moved to new rooms. The quarterly town hall was hosted by someone else. She'd find out about things after they happened. She'd walk into offices and feel the silence wrap around her like a bad perfume. People still smiled, but it was tight, polite, empty, and some didn't meet her eyes at all. Speaking head whispers in the hall. Did you hear she's the one in that report? Deshawn handled it like a pro. She's lucky he didn't go public. I heard HR is building a file. Meredith walked past like she didn't hear. But she did. Every word. Lipstick she tried to regain control. She posted on LinkedIn. Leadership means listening. I'm reflecting and growing. We must all do better. The post got likes, but not the right kind. No peers, no allies, only vague claps from people who didn't know better. She called in a favor from a PR friend. Should I go public with my side? He paused. No, you go quiet. You wait. And then what? Hope. Briefcase, then came the invitation that wasn't. Every year, Kingsbridge hosted the Women Who Build conference, a huge televised event where Meredith had once been keynote speaker. This year, her name wasn't on the agenda, not as speaker, not as moderator, not even on the guest list. She emailed the coordinator. Mistake, she asked. The reply was cold. We've shifted to spotlighting inclusive leadership this year. A single sentence, but it felt like a bullet. Chart decreasing, her power was evaporating. She tried to suggest a new hiring initiative. No response. Tried to back a junior analyst she once ignored. Got a, thanks, we've got it in return. She wasn't being fired. She was being faded. Erased the way she'd erased others. And for the first time, she understood what it felt like. Speech balloon a message from Jordan. One night, she opened her inbox and saw an old name. Jordan Patel, the analyst who used to observe in silence. The message was short. I remember what you said about Deshawn. I didn't speak up then, but I remember. And now, so does everyone else. Meredith stared at the screen for a long time, then closed the laptop without replying. Bed nights got longer. She couldn't sleep. She'd stare at the ceiling wondering, did I really do all that? Was I like that? Was I always the problem? And the worst question, what if I still don't understand what I did wrong? The bottom arrives in silence. Friday, she walked into her office and found her nameplate gone, replaced by a generic one. She blinked, looked around. It's just being cleaned, someone mumbled. But it wasn't. It was the preparation for her soft exit. HR would come soon, with options, with language like transition plan, opportunity for reflection, mutual understanding. They wouldn't call it what it was, but she knew. She was being let go, quietly, with dignity she had not earned. And still, she was lucky because Deshawn could have ruined her. Publicly, legally, permanently. But he hadn't. He'd left the door open for her to change. And the truth? She didn't know if she deserved it. A final request. HR had scheduled her transition meeting for Friday. There would be lawyers, options, language so soft it bruised. But before that, someone requested one more conversation. In private, Mr. Clark has asked to speak with you off the record. No recordings, no notes, just a conversation if you agree. Meredith stared at the message and typed, yes. Mantelpiece clock Thursday for 3 p.m. empty conference room. She arrived early. Again, it was a habit she hadn't broken. When Deshawn walked in, he was carrying nothing. No laptop, no briefcase, no files, just himself. And clarity. He sat across from her, looked at her, really looked. Meredith tried to break the silence first. I'm not sure what you want to hear. He raised one hand, calmly, just one question. She swallowed. He leaned forward slightly, voice steady. Do you remember how you made me feel that year? Ice cube silence. She blinked, mouth half open. Nothing came out. He didn't rush her, didn't glare, didn't mock. He just waited. I don't remember specifics, she whispered. That's the thing, he said. You didn't have to. But I remember all of it. Direct hit, he let it land. I remember how you smiled when you cut me off. I remember how your eyes skipped over me during meetings, how you called me D like I was a pet, how you took my work and gave it to someone with a last name you liked better. I remember how small I felt, how angry, how embarrassed, and I remember telling myself not to show it, because if I did, I'd be labeled aggressive. He paused, looked down for a second, then back up. You didn't just hold me back. You made me question my own worth, my own voice. You didn't need to raise your voice. You just erased me, bit by bit. Face without mouth, Meredith couldn't hide behind policy. No HR jargon would save her here. No equity initiative. No LinkedIn post. No apology written by a PR team. She could barely breathe. Her eyes welled up, not out of guilt, but because she finally saw it. The weight, the cruelty, the convenient denial. You think I'm here to get you fired? He asked. She didn't answer. I'm not. That's too easy. This isn't revenge, Meredith. This is recognition. Broken heart, her voice finally cracks. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know it landed like that. I know, he said. That's why it did. Brain, then he said something she'd never forget. There's two kinds of harm. The kind people do on purpose, and the kind they do because they never bothered to see the full human in front of them. I'd rather be punched than erased. She looked at him, face pale, makeup cracking slightly at the corners of her eyes. What happens now? He stood slowly. That's not my question to answer anymore. It's yours. And he left, chart decreasing aftermath. She sat in that empty room for 45 minutes, not moving, not crying, just seeing it. Finally, not as an accusation, but as a mirror. Memo the memo. The next morning, she sent one final internal memo. Short, unpolished, honest. Subject, no excuse. Over the past years, I failed people. I made assumptions I didn't question. I upheld systems I didn't challenge. I confused comfort with correctness. And for that, I'm sorry. Not to save face, but because people like me need to say it. Loud. And without asking for anything in return. No one replied. They didn't need to. Compass, but the first domino had fallen. And Meredith, for the first time in her life, didn't need to control the room. She just sat back and listened. The final report. Deshawn spent 3 weeks compiling it. No exaggerations. No personal language. Just data. Testimonies. Patterns. The file was 127 pages long. Titled simply, Culture Audit, Kingsbridge Capital, Meredith Shaw Division. The executive summary read like a eulogy, not for a person, but for a culture of quiet harm that had been left unchallenged for far too long. Round pushpin key findings. 27 separate incidents of microaggressive behavior. 5 formal complaints buried by HR. 0 months of color advanced to leadership under her direction. consistent exclusion of diverse candidates from hiring shortlists. And finally, psychological impact testimonies from 3 former interns, 2 analysts, and 1 anonymous employee who wrote, "She made me feel like I was always just one mispronounced name away from being replaced." Classical building, the boardroom. When Deshawn entered the room, all eyes turned. Suits, polished shoes, people who'd once brushed him off as just an intern. He placed the folder down gently. "You've asked for my recommendation." Silence. Then he said, "It's not termination." Brain gasps and then curiosity. A few eyebrows raised. "Not termination?" Deshawn nodded. "Firing her is convenient. But real change isn't about burning the past. It's about confronting it." Speech balloon his recommendation. Meredith Shaw should not continue in a people management position. However, she should be given a role, 1-year non-executive, to build what she helped break. A paid equity learning position, reporting to the diversity office. She won't lead. She'll listen. No PR spin. No stage. Just work. If she refuses, then yes, terminate. But if she accepts, she earns a chance to grow. Silence followed. Not because they disagreed, but because none of them saw it coming. Woman standing Meredith receives the offer. That evening, HR handed her the envelope. Inside, a revised contract, a new title, Equity and Culture Assistant, a direct report to a junior DI manager, a salary cut, no team, no authority, and a personal note from Deshawn. "You erase people. Now I'm giving you a highlighter. Use it right." She held the paper for a long time. Didn't speak. Didn't cry. Just breathed. Repeat button her first day. It wasn't glamorous. Her new desk, set next to a window, facing a brick wall. No nameplate. No team waiting. The DI manager, a young black woman named Kendra, greeted her with a simple, "You know why you're here?" Meredith nodded. "To learn." "Good. Sit down." And for once she did. Laptop computer, the work begins. She read exit interviews she once ignored, sat in feedback circles where she was no longer the one speaking, listened to voices she used to talk over. Some avoided her. Others looked her in the eye and didn't blink. And day by day, Meredith stopped explaining herself and started listening. Envelope with arrow, a message from Deshawn. A month in, she received a short email. Subject, a start. "You're still here. That matters." D. She didn't reply, just smiled, then went back to work. Seedling a different kind of power. She wasn't forgiven. Not yet. Maybe never. But she had something else. A beginning. And sometimes, that's all karma really is. Not revenge, but a mirror. And a choice, asterisk, asterisk, Kingsbridge Tower, 7:48 a.m. 3 months later. The lobby was buzzing. New quarter. New hires. Among them, a young black intern in a gray blazer and fresh white sneakers stood near the elevator, fidgeting with the strap of her tote bag. She looked nervous, lost, eyes scanning for someone to ask, but everyone else was too busy, too important, too polished. Person standing Meredith saw her from across the room. No longer in heels. No longer with an assistant trailing her. Just herself. She just finished her 3rd week in the new role. Her desk was smaller. Her badge no longer opened the executive floor. And yet, for the first time in her life, she felt present. She walked toward the girl. Not fast, not with authority, with intention. "Hey," she said softly. "First day." The intern looked up, caught off guard. Yeah." Meredith smiled. Genuine. No gloss. "What's your name?" "Ariana." "Ariana," she repeated. "Not A. Not Riri. Just Ariana. Welcome. Elevator's a little slow today. Mind if I ride up with you?" Inside the elevator, it was just the two of them. Meredith stood quietly beside her, then did something she had never done before. She stepped aside and let Ariana press the floor button first. A small thing, but not small at all. Repeat button, the moment reversed. 3 years ago, Deshawn had stood in this same elevator. Same nervous hands. Same dream. And Meredith? She hadn't even looked at him. Now, she was holding the door for someone else. Literally. And symbolically. Speech balloon before the doors opened. Meredith turned to Ariana and said, "If you ever feel unseen in there, come find me. I won't fix everything, but I'll listen." Ariana blinked, didn't know what to say. "Thanks," she whispered. And in that moment, a cycle broke. Camera, no one took a picture. There was no post, no clout, no campaign, just a hallway, 2 women, and a quiet apology that didn't need to be said aloud, because it was lived. Pen one final entry. That night, Meredith opened a fresh notebook, not for meeting notes or HR policies or strategy decks, just reflection. At the top of the page, she wrote, "I used to lead from fear. Now I follow from grace." And underneath it, she added, "Thank you, Deshawn, for not letting me fall, but for letting me see." Clapperboard final frame. We fade out on a simple shot, the elevator doors closing, a young black intern stepping forward, and a woman who once blocked the way, now holding the door.